Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for April the 20th of 2020. That's right, it's 420, baby. Can you still see me? Are you with me? Nice, because we've got some gaming news to dive into today. But of course, for those that don't know, this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it's your one-stop shop for all of the hottest gaming news that you need to know. And today we have plenty to dive into, but I do want to make something very clear before we dive into it. This topic is pure speculation at this point. The Xbox One X and the Xbox One S have not been confirmed to be seeing a cutback in production or even a full cease in production. But I do believe that Mr. Benji Sales on Twitter might be up to something. Now, for those that don't follow Benji Sales on Twitter, I would highly recommend doing so. He is an industry analyst, very passionate about what he does, but he shares his thoughts, his insights, and of course, some insider information as to what is going on in the gaming industry from a sales and analytics kind of perspective. But he said today on Twitter, it looks like Xbox One X will be ending production soon to make room for next-gen Xbox Series X manufacturing focus. Quote, this will be the final Xbox One X limited edition console to ever be released, and only 45,000 units will be available in select markets. And of course, Benji is quoting the official reveal of the Cyberpunk 2077 Xbox One X. Now, if you want more information on this Xbox One X, we did a full topic on this piece of hardware last week, if you do want to go back and give it a look. But for those that do not want to do that, there is the console itself, along with its customized controller. Of course, there are some LED elements here. It does glow in the dark, if you will. And on top of that, there is the close-up of the controller itself. Looks very good. There is a dock for it, which we did not see before. And additionally, there is a Seagate external hard drive, along with a headset. And it looks to be pretty much what you would expect. A very good-looking Cyberpunk 2077 themed piece of hardware. However, what's interesting here is the sentence that Benji pulls out, where they say, quote, this will be the final Xbox One X limited edition console to ever be released. Now let's talk about that. That makes perfect sense, because right now we are on the cusp of a brand new gaming console to be coming out, and so you don't want, for instance, Halo Infinite to have a limited edition Xbox One X whenever you have a new piece of hardware on the market, because if somebody might not have a 4K television yet, or perhaps they might be on the fence about getting the newest generation of Xbox console, then they might actually go for the limited edition Halo series as compared to a brand new console that's the hottest item on the market. And so that makes sense that they won't be having themed consoles going forward, at least not of the Xbox One X. However, only 45,000 units will be available in select markets. This could be a couple of things. First and foremost, it could just be a rare limited edition console. That's perfectly acceptable, and it's perfectly understandable because that's kind of an expectation for a lot of limited edition pieces of hardware. But at the same time, it does bring into question, are we seeing the beginning of the end of the Xbox One line? And could it be a little bit earlier than normal because of lackluster sales? And I think that it very well could. If you look, for instance, at the most recent console sales figures, you'll see that the Xbox One is well behind the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, and we are in the middle of a pandemic. Of course, gaming has skyrocketed over the course of the past few weeks as a lot of people have been staying at home and either have been furloughed from their jobs, lost their jobs, or are working from home, and so gaming is a welcome distraction from everything that's going on in the world. And so whenever you see PlayStation 4 nearly pushing 250,000 sales at this point in its life cycle, and the Nintendo Switch continuing to dominate, it brings to question, why is the Xbox One not even breaking 50,000 consoles sold? That blows my mind. And so, of course, you can go check out those numbers if you would like. They have been released for a couple of days now. However, I do think that it might be wise to go ahead and stop or at least cut back on the production of the Xbox line. I think that there are plenty of pieces of hardware out there in the wild right now, and so to be able to put that additional manpower towards making the Xbox Series X or perhaps towards other aspects of your production line could be a pretty wise move in the long run. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't try and grab one of these 45,000 because they look pretty good if you're looking for a current generation console to dive into, or perhaps you are a collector. I can't help but wish this console had come out in 2015, where I could have gotten a little bit more of a bang for my buck, if you will. But if you do want to dive in and give it a look, it's coming out this June. of course, June 2020, and you can buy the controller separately. You can buy the SteelSeries headset. You can buy the Seagate hard drive. There's so much you can buy. They want all of your money if you do want to give it to them. However, a new report has come out saying that some originally planned E3 2020 reveals will be rolled out sooner. Reportedly, some of the news that was initially meant to come out of E3 2020 will go live a bit earlier than planned. Of course, there are several reveals the publishers and developers aim to keep under wraps until what would have been the week of E3 arrives, and some bits of information are likely to surface later than originally planned. Interestingly, PlayStation and Xbox fans can supposedly expect the first proper next-gen console/game showcase to happen sooner as well. All of this is according to Nico Partners analyst Daniel Ahmad, who further notes that even reveals and such that were altered due to E3's cancellation are still subject to change. After all, we are currently living through an unprecedented health crisis. Of course, you can check out the original tweet here on Daniel Ahmad's Twitter, but in a subsequent tweet, he also added a caveat explaining that the next-gen showcase, whatever it may entail, could very well face unsuspected changes due to coronavirus. We know from a previous report that Sony's marketing plans for PlayStation 5 have already been disrupted by COVID-19, but still the company seems set on releasing the console by year's end. Now, last week we talked about the fact that there were there are restrictions on the number of consoles being produced by Sony this year. Of course, that is all coming to us from a report that was kind of sharing some leaked information. But it seems like Sony is scaling back this production because of the price of the next-gen hardware. It is going to be higher than they expected, at least again, according to these inside resources. So there's a lot of stuff to break down here, and of course, if you want to learn more about the production, you can check out a previous episode of the Jampack report that came out last week. However, are we going to be getting news sooner than June 2020? And I think that we could, but it's not likely. There was another report that was shared today that there is going to be an earnings call coming out in May for how Sony is doing in this past fiscal year. They're going to be talking about how things are going, and they're going to be discussing a lot of inside figures. And so normally whenever there is a new console revealed, they aren't necessarily in line or near a earnings call. I think that's kind of throwing off the timeline here. Now, could it be late May? Absolutely. It just depends on what the definition is of rolled out sooner, because sooner for me could be in the next 10 minutes. Sooner for somebody else could be in the next 2 months. It really depends on how you break things down. However, again, right now, everybody's kind of calling an audible in terms of their marketing plan. You really don't know what people are thinking right now, because I'm sure that there's a lot of discussion behind the scenes of whether or not we are actually going to be getting a new generation PlayStation this year. It doesn't really seem like a good time to release a console, in my opinion. Yes, tons of people are home, but you have to understand that financially there's a lot of uncertainty, and so there are many that cannot afford a new console right now, and on top of that, there are many that don't feel comfortable spending upwards of $500 or $600 on a new piece of gaming hardware whenever they have rent to pay and mouths to feed. And so I think that's a perfectly reasonable explanation for pushing the console back to maybe February or March of 2021 at the earliest. But right now, again, nothing has been delayed. They're still keeping on the path and trying to release this thing in 2020. So keep your ear to the ground, of course. As soon as PlayStation 5 information breaks, we will be talking about it here on the Jampack Report that following evening. So stay tuned, subscribe, and keep yourself in the know. However, today, Facebook Gaming has an official app on Android. Facebook will launch, and they now have, a dedicated Facebook Gaming mobile app on Monday as it attempts to steal market share from Amazon's Twitch and Google's YouTube. The free app is designed largely for creating and watching live gameplay, reports New York Times, but it will also include access to casual games and gaming communities. Facebook Gaming will be available first on Android devices, and is currently awaiting approval on iOS. Viewers currently watch Facebook Gaming streaming via the core Facebook app or website, and in the game streaming market, Facebook is number 3 in terms of total hours watched, behind YouTube and Twitch, according to Streamlabs. Facebook claims more than 700 million of its 2.5 billion monthly active users have already engaged with gaming content, but Fadij Simo, I believe I said that incorrectly, but hey, I'm only human, head of the Facebook app, told New York Times that it originally intended to launch the gaming app in June, but its plans were accelerated by the coronavirus outbreak and the subsequent increase in gaming activity. Quote, investing in gaming in general has become a priority for us because we see gaming as a form of entertainment that really connects people, she said. It's entertaining, It's entertainment that's not just a form of passive consumption, but entertainment that is interactive and brings people together. SEMA said the pandemic has convinced the company to speed up other gaming projects, including a new tournament feature. Quote, "We are seeing a big rise in gaming during quarantine," she said. Streaming via the app works via a function called Go Live, which lets users upload streams of mobile games on the same device. I would have used the word broadcast here. Those streams can then be shared to someone's personal Facebook page. Ooh, that's gross, which the firm hopes will prove more accessible than rivals such as Twitch, which generally require the installation of third-party programs. Facebook is focused on mobile and the new app for streaming because the mobile experience is more intense than computer viewing, the company's VP of Gaming, Vivek Sharma, said. Quote, "We don't want to be the background window in a Chrome tab while someone is doing their homework or something else," Sharma said. With mobile, if you have the app open and you're using the app, it is in the foreground. You can't do anything else on your mobile phone, and that is extremely powerful. I want to talk about how ass backwards this approach is, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that they have analysts and I'm sure that they have inside researchers. There is so much research and development that's going into this right now. But let me tell you right now a little something about Twitch, okay? I consider myself to be the generic user. I am the generic Twitch person. I have it up in a window almost all of the time when I'm at work, when I'm at home, whatever I might be doing. I tend to have Twitch open at some point during the day. And it's always up, and it's never the focus of what I'm doing. I am never sitting there actively watching a stream while I am talking to chat. That's just not how the bulk of Twitch people function. If you go into any Twitch stream that has, I would say, 100 viewers, that's 100 people. That's a very crowded cafeteria, okay? You might see, I don't know, 20 people getting involved in the conversation if you really sit there and you look at the chat. That leaves 80 people that are not talking at all. The majority of people would never make their voice heard to say, hey, I don't really chat during the app. If you have a mobile device, I can guarantee you that I'm not going to have it open just to watch Facebook. Even on the Facebook website itself, they have a picture-in-picture viewing. There's Southern coming up. You have a picture-in-picture viewing option if you are watching a live stream or watching a video so that you can continue doing other stuff on the Facebook page. It's just a horrible backwards way of approaching the overall user experience. And I really think that Facebook gaming is going to be dominated by generic mobile games. It's going to be dominated by stuff like GTA. Now, you have phenomenal creators on Facebook, make no mistake. I love Rival X Factor. I love, on top of that, Darkness429, The Pool Shark, great dude. I love watching stuff on Facebook gaming. But I think that this is probably a move in the wrong direction because now you're going to have a lot of people streaming Clash of Clans and various other gacha game kind of situations. Not a big fan of this, not a big fan of it at all. But I will say YouTube is doing the same thing. Of course, you see a lot of streaming going on YouTube, and that does tend to be a mobile version of PUBG or something similar. Oh man, I don't know what's happening anymore. Also, going back to this, Mixer is losing so much ground. It is just sad. It seems like Twitch is going to come out of this one dominating even more than before. YouTube, on the other hand, is definitely seeing some growth, but not on the rate of Twitch. It's just mind-blowing. However, maybe Travis Scott can fix everything because he is going on tour in Fortnite starting on April the 23rd. I've never listened to one Travis Scott song, but I think he's the one with the weird album cover. He's got it's like a giant head with the tongue coming out of it. But Travis Scott is taking a different approach to virtual concerts in the pandemic era. He is going on tour in Fortnite. Epic has revealed that the rap star is launching an astronomical experience in the Battle Royale game that includes both performances and in-game rewards. You will have 5 otherworldly shows inspired by the work of Cactus Jack, with the first due in the Americas on April 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. European and Middle Eastern gamers can see a show on April 24th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. CET, while a trio of shows will take place on April 25th for Asia and Oceania at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, Europe and Middle East at 11 a.m. ET, and the Americas at 6 p.m. ET. You won't have to wait long for the in-game items. As of April the 21st, you will have access to outfits, emotes, and other Scott-themed goodies, both in the shop and earned through astronomical challenges. If you do attend one of the shows, you can score a free Astro World-themed glider as well as 2 loading screens. This is not the first Fortnite music tie-in, just ask Marshmello fans. These kinds of appearances are rare though, and Scott's appearance still shows the clout that Fortnite has in pop culture. It's also an acknowledgement that artists may have to resort to unusual methods to stay in the spotlight while COVID-19 keeps people at home. If you had me held hostage, and you said, "How do I torture you? What can I do to make you talk?" I would probably put watching a Travis Scott concert in Fortnite pretty high on the list. Just saying. But I like the way they're using it. I think it's neat to see that you are going to be able to get these in-game performances. You are going to be able to see a concert. And as a kid, if I'm one of the 12-year-olds in Walmart doing the, where you flip your leg and you do the arm thing, if I'm one of those kids, I'm probably all over this. But hey, if you're into it, it's coming later this April. Again, around April 23rd specifically is whenever the entire series of events begins to kick off. Now, while Fortnite is beginning to stagnate a bit, if you will, PUBG is really beginning to go downhill. PUBG's Global Series will be replaced by online events. I want to talk about this. PUBG Corp will instead host a digital PUBG Continental Series in lieu of the PUBG Global Series. PCS events will be held in May, June, and August with a total prize pool of $2.4 million across 4 regions: Asia, Asia-Pacific, Europe, and North America. The first tournament, the PUBG Continental Series Charity Showdown, will take place in May. Prize money for each region is $100,000, and an additional $100,000 will be donated to a charity of the winner's choice. This results in a combined prize pot and donation fund of $800,000 for the 4 regions. In June and August, PCS events across Asia, APAC, Europe, and NA will be held in a prize pool of $200,000 for each region. There will also be the Pick'em Challenge event where fans can guess which team will be crowned the winner. Through this, esports fans will be offered new items, as well as allowing the top-performing teams to earn additional profits. PUBG Corp will also provide $20,000 in compensation to each of the 21 teams originally set to take part in the PUBG Global Series Berlin. Teams in regions where qualifiers are currently taking place or have been postponed will also receive compensation. The event, set for April, was originally postponed due to the potential spread of the coronavirus before being canceled. So I think this is beginning to show cracks in the levee, if you will, of the end of PUBG being a global phenomenon. Now, that's not to say it's going to fail entirely. That's not saying that PUBG is on the global decline. But what I am saying is it's not what it once was. I think that you are starting to see, number one, a pivot away from COVID-19 threats. But on top of that, I think we are beginning to see the relaxation of a lot of the push for it to be a global esport. It is a global esport, but I think that switching to a continental series could be showing the slow trend that's going to be towards a regional series eventually, and then slowly but surely the trickle down will continue. Now, I'm interested in PUBG Corp's next game right now, but of course PUBG still drove Battle Royales to popularity. And it will never be forgotten over that, but for a good reason. It's a fantastic game. However, let's talk about this, because Doom Eternal's official soundtrack was not mixed by its composer, and you can tell this was a very shocking story that came out earlier today. Doom Eternal is quite the looker, and if you are a fan of heavy metal hellscapes, it's your ears that are getting the biggest treat. Composer Mick Gordon's monster of a soundtrack is the perfect accompaniment to all the demonic carnage, but there is something not quite right about the newly released original soundtrack. If you have been listening to the soundtrack and are trying to figure out why it sounds off compared to its predecessor, audio blogger That AC/DC Guy has broken down what's changed in a Twitter thread. Comparing BFG Division from Doom 2016 with Doom Eternal, they found some notable differences in the track's wavelengths, and you can take a look below. And of course, here you have the 2 wavelengths for the 2 different versions of the songs. As you can see here in Doom 2016, it's almost like you might have applied a leveler or you have adjusted the amplification of the 2020 Doom Eternal version. The audio file goes on to explain that the new version features less dynamic range between instruments, resulting in smoother wavelengths and making the instruments all compete for your ear's attention. It's still a killer OST, even on Spotify where the quality has been reduced, but it's perhaps not all it could have been. Gordon responded, offering an explanation. He didn't mix that track. Apparently, the composer mixed a small handful of them which have not been compressed. He does not sound too impressed, suggesting that he was not involved in the decision. Following this, a fan allegedly reached out to the composer on Instagram, which they shared on Reddit, asking if he would work with id on future Dooms. "Doubt we'll work together again," he said. "I reached out to Gordon to get more details on the mix and his relationship with id and Bethesda, and, of course, he replied, quote, 'I take a lot of pride in my work,' Gordon told me. 'It's all I do, it's all I have, and I pour my heart and soul into it.' He added that he is still trying to understand the situation himself and has no further comments at this time. As well as composing Doom and Doom Eternal soundtracks, Gordon was behind the music of both modern Wolfensteins, along with a long list of other games, so hopefully this will not put him off delighting and terrifying our ears in the future." So this is something that I didn't quite realize until I thought about it, because if you play Doom Eternal, it's a phenomenal game. Very good game. I finished it probably the weekend before last, and I must admit I was very impressed with the overall aesthetic, the overall feel. The combat's great, and the music is good, but it doesn't quite kick like Doom 2016, and I couldn't quite identify what it was. But this makes perfect sense. The highs aren't as high and the lows aren't as low, and it doesn't have that kind of fluctuation. It just doesn't have that same kind of kick. And as somebody who, I'm not an audiophile and I'm not an audio technician by any stretch of the imagination, not a professional one anyway, but I know good audio, and it would crush me to have a good mix that is just decimated by some intern that needs to, he might have his bass turned up on his headphones too high, whatever the situation might have been. That's just so sad. And hopefully they could be able to fix this with maybe a patch that would replace those MP3 files with these MP3 files. But again, you'll just have to see what happens here. But to Mr. Mick Gordon, fantastic job on every soundtrack you've ever done. And this is a very unfortunate situation with the Doom Eternal soundtrack. But to round out today's show, how about some good news? Corona relief done quick raised an amazing $400,000 in just one weekend. The video game community has once again mobilized our favorite pastime to help a worthy cause. Despite lockdown legislation, the good folks at Games Done Quick successfully hosted an impromptu speedrunning marathon this weekend where they succeeded in raising over $400,000 USD for frontline healthcare workers. Corona Relief Done Quick showcased back-to-back speedruns streamed live from players' homes. From Friday through the early hours of this morning, a slew of players hacked their way through over 100 great games, from classics such as Super Mario Bros. 3, Donkey Kong Country, and Super Metroid, to more modern titles like Dark Souls, Nier Automata, and Pokemon Sword. As CRDQ went off air, just over $400,000 have been raised from over 6,000 viewer donations. This amazing sum of money will go to Direct Relief, an international organization that is currently providing much-needed personal protective equipment to frontline healthcare workers. These are the people bravely and tirelessly working to protect, comfort, and support those currently ailing with COVID-19, more commonly known as coronavirus. The money will be used to distribute masks, gloves, gowns, sanitizer, and other products where they are needed most. And in addition, Direct Relief is supporting smaller community clinics, helping to provide prescription medication to those who urgently need it. If you wish to check out any of these CRDQ runs, the whole weekend is archived with chapter points over on the GDQ Twitch channel. Congratulations to the organizers, hosts, sponsors, and streamers for putting together an extempore event. What? The extempore? I don't know this word. Why do I not know this? Let's look and see what that one means. Extempore. I have no idea what that means. Spoken or done without preparation. The surprise event. That's a new one for Mike. Anyways, the money raised and the healthcare workers that will benefit from it are indomitable testament to the strength, generosity, and goodwill of the people, even in the most distressing of times. Now, Summer Games Done Quick is now scheduled for August 16th through the 23rd after being delayed from the COVID-19 pandemic. But first and foremost, thank you to the frontline healthcare workers. You guys are the true heroes out there. On top of that, congratulations to CRDQ and the guys at GDQ for making that possible. You love to see it, and you love to talk about it. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about everything we talked about today. Do you think the Xbox One could get, of course, killed off before its time, or do you think it's going to continue production throughout maybe even 2025? I would love to see what you guys have to say about that. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.